This is the Dear Warren podcast.
Welcome, everyone. This episode of the podcast, we have my good friend, Mr. Bernie Pigott here. And he is currently still rocking out to the intro music. And he is currently rocking out because he actually completes the streak of what we've had so far with our guests as the fourth guest. Excuse me. He is still completing the streak of all musicians so far. Right, Mr. Bernie?
I am honored for you to even say I'm a musician in your presence.
Oh, come on.
That intro, I assume, was yours, right?
Yeah. Actually, no, we ripped it off. You are responsible for paying for it for us now. So
I like that. Now, is that off of the latest album?
Yes, it is off the latest album, just a little tidbit of it. And the funny part is one of my other guests, Jason, he's actually the drummer. In his company, he runs something with a credit union. And his hold music is the intro to that exact same song. So
that's awesome.
But as far as that musicianship goes, you were rocking it, and you were playing a pretty mean air guitar. How's guitar going for you?
It's not as much as I like to be. Mm-hmm. You know, I mean, life gets in the way. You know, gosh, it was funny. I have the acoustics all lined up. I pick them up every once in a while. You know, it's kind of really fun. I'll tell you what's really interesting. I'm going to be 47 in 2 months. And I've been playing over 30 years, I guess, 32, 33 years, something like that, right?
Wow.
Yeah, right? You would think I'd be good by now.
Oh, come on.
No, but the funny thing was I picked up the guitar.
Good enough to release your own album as well, too.
Yeah.
Which we'll have to eventually somehow plug.
That's a gratuitous plug. You know, we'll put some imagery. Oh, sorry, this is a podcast. No, anyway.
We could put imagery. Jess can be all over that somehow.
Yeah, Jess,
somehow she will.
Let's start, let's make an itemized list of things Jess will need to do for this.
Sure.
And she'll be really upset. But,
are you totally, just like how this podcast is backseat parenting, are you backseat marketing Jess right now? Because she's going to love that.
See, you're not supposed to call me out while I'm doing it, man. It's the art of manipulation. That's where the media background comes in, man. Come on.
That is true. You do have... I guess it'll probably either be in the bio or if you want to explain your media background.
Well, before we get to that, I want to mention one thing that's really interesting about the music. And I wonder if all musicians go through this, is that I haven't been able to practice nearly like I used to do, right? I mean, life takes over. And my life the last 6 months has been crazy. Actually, this whole year has been crazy. I have hardly picked up the instrument. I have to tell you, maybe half a dozen times in 6 months, maybe a little bit more.
It happens.
Seriously. And then when I'm only playing, it's maybe like just strumming some chords and playing a few notes. But what was interesting was, though my dexterity is still there, I'm still able to play the same riffs, but maybe not as quick.
It's like riding a bike.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I used to remember reading when I was a younger person, like in the beginning, reading all these magazines of all these gods of guitar. And they'll say, do you practice anymore? And like some people say, yeah, practice X amount of hours a day. The other person, like, no, not really. And it's because they've done it so much. And it's interesting that at this point, I can get up there and jam probably with anybody, not as at my peak, but I'd still be able to hold my own. And it's interesting going, wow, I guess it is true. It's so like the keys come back. It just all comes back, and it's just funny how much that's the amazing thing about guitar is that when you love something, it wasn't work, and it's amazing how much you can remember it. Remember all this stuff. It just comes right back to you.
There's a certain level of mastery to it, and this you should pay attention, Warren, as much as you're practicing. Too loud for you?
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, I think you are in number.
Yeah, the one that's he thinks I'm a musician. I'm half deaf. I'm not half deaf yet.
That one, the one where it's like at 2:00. Yeah, turn that down a bit.
That's good. Mm-hmm. There you go. That's better. Excellent.
But I thought we loved hearing ourselves. It was, or I was a little too hot.
You are voice hot.
But as far as mastery for you, Warren, and practicing when you eventually, hopefully, will get into some instruments, I think it goes with any type of activity that you do where practice is involved. What you were just saying, Bernie, as far as going to a place even after a time period later, picking it up, and still there, I would assume there are still some aspects of your playing, whether it be scales or chords, that you just will always be able to hit pretty much no matter what.
Yeah, there's the go-to stuff. There's always the go-to chords.
And one would say that's like the mastered stuff. Like you can almost predict it in the future. I'm going to be playing this certain pentatonic scale. Boom.
Right,
It just
right.
comes out of your fingers. And then maybe there's something that years ago you only practiced for like a week. Maybe it was a whammy bar dive. Maybe it was an artificial harmonic pick or something like that. And then you try it and then it sounds like, remember when you played Guitar Hero, it would be like clunk,
Right.
like dishes crashing in the background. That's when you realize that's the stuff you haven't mastered.
Yeah.
And that's the stuff you got to get back to and get a bit of a grind. And hey, that's the reminder of what to actually practice.
I will say this to your son who's going to listen to this in many, many years from now. I've had many people say to me, oh, you play guitar, you play an instrument, it's fantastic. I always wish I did. I always wish I picked up an instrument. I always had interest in an instrument. How wonderful it would be to be able to play a song, and the list just goes on and on. And I say to every single person, and every person that's going to listen to this, which is what, you have 1 million viewers by now, listeners? You will be after
Dozens and dozens.
Dozens, well, exponential. But the thing is, I tell everybody, it doesn't matter how old you are. It doesn't. I mean, just do it. If you're 80 years old, get one. Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter. 100 years, it doesn't make a difference what age you are. And then if you say, well, I don't have time, you do have time. Because for 15 minutes, I mean, today, to be a musician or to learn about music, it's so much easier than what you and I had it. I mean, everything's on YouTube if you want to take a lesson, right? To buy an instrument, you can get $100, you can get a halfway decent instrument now, you know what I mean? Just to start. I mean, it wasn't like that when I first started, So you have halfway decent instruments, you have free tutoring on YouTube, and it's the best, greatest joy in the world. I equate it to, golfing. Like, I love playing golf. And golfing is so frustrating. But what brings you back is that 1 or 2 pristine shots you did. You're like, wow, look at this, And it's the same thing when playing guitar. You're like, oh, I'm clunking. But once when you clearly hit that C chord for the very first time, and then you start strumming it, then you feel like a rock star. You really do. And then you feel like you achieved something, and then it never goes away. And then you're addicted, And it's just, I've heard every excuse in the book. My fingers are too fat, my fingers are too small, stop.
I got no musical talent.
I got no talent. Stop with the excuses. Just pick up the damn instrument, man. Get $100, get YouTube, you're good to go. Have fun, enjoy your life. I mean, it's so just do it. So for your son, if he ever wants to pick it up, well, it's in his blood now because of you. But even if he picks up a different instrument, it doesn't matter. Just have with it, because I'll tell you, the guitar has saved me through some depressing moments over life. And I'm sure you and every musician will attest to that. You get those quiet moments. It's dark. You have a glass of scotch, wine, or water, whatever it is. And
Seltzer, Warren.
Seltzer. Sorry. And well, seltzer mixed with
with cranberry juice.
Yes. By the time they hit his age, can you imagine what they'll have infused now? They have infused everything when it comes to alcohol. Everything's
That's
infused.
right.
Everything. Anyway, I mean, and you'll be sitting there. It's the greatest thing in the world's music. So don't, if you're thinking about picking up an instrument, pick up an instrument. Actually, it's funny. Go to a music store, but don't be intimidated. If you know somebody that is a musician, go with that person first, because I could see where that intimidation could come in.
Go to a music store and make sure you're not playing Stairway to Heaven, right?
Oh, no, if you can play Stairway to Heaven when you first start, that's pretty darn good. I'll give them that. If you're playing a month and you're playing Stairway, kudos to you. You know what I mean? Playing it the right way. But,
yes.
Yeah.
So you do talk about telling people to pick up guitar. The way you were talking about it, especially, it seems like you remember life before guitar. Did you start immediately out of the gate, or do you remember a good amount of years before you actually picked it up?
Well, when I moved to Jersey from Brooklyn in 1984, and I was I was 13, turning 14, so I was a freshman in high school at Woodbridge High School, New Jersey, and I was still in athletics and all that stuff. And, I tried out for a couple of things, didn't really work out as well as I wanted to. And the friends that I had made at that time, they were musicians. I mean, Woodbridge High School in those years, like from 84 to 80, 88 to 90, I mean, some of the monster musicians you'll ever see. I mean, it's amazing the amount of talent that came out of high school. I mean, heck, Richie Sambora came out of there, and that was pre-'84. But the amount of talent that comes out of New Jersey for musicianship, and the amount of talent that came out of high school. I mean, there was these two cats. I mean, Ron Lako and this other guy, Eric Iannelli. But they were touched by the hand of God to play an instrument. Mm-hmm. I mean, I remember meeting Ron Lako, and I mean, people were telling me he played Eruption when he was in like 7th grade. I'm like, yeah, right. I go meet him, and he's playing Far Beyond the Sun, and he's 14 years old by Yngwie Malmsteen, note for note. And then he surpassed that, and he goes over and plays, and then he's figuring out and playing Alan Holdsworth. I'm going, dear God,
that's another level.
Yeah, that's prodigy stuff. I mean, that I mean, if Ronnie ever hears this. He is the most humble person. I mean, I haven't talked to him in many years, and I haven't talked to Eric in many years. And Eric was, equally as talented in that realm, and I think he went more towards a blues vein. I think at some point, and you can't hold me to it because I haven't jammed with these guys in decades. But Ronnie was a prodigy, and back when the word prodigy was never used. And he would never say it. Nobody would talk about it. It's just amazing. But the musicianships. I mean, there was a guy Lars who's a phenomenal keyboard player. There was other people, great drummers. There was just great bass players. They were just monster musicians. And that was what it was back then. So when I hooked up with some of these guys, it was like, well, all right, I remember when I was a young boy, my cousin played acoustic. And it was fun playing acoustic with him. And I was like, all right, so I wanted to learn how to do it. So my next door neighbor had a piece of crap guitar, let me borrow it. And had a small, like 12-inch size box it's more like a speaker than you could call it an amplifier. Mm-hmm. And I started plugging away on this, and I got a Mel Bay book, and I played by myself for like 4 months trying to understand this. What is this? I mean, you got to remember, there's no internet back then. So I'm
no
like,
tabs, no YouTube videos.
No, it was like, this is a quarter note, bitch. Know it. And I'm like, okay, metronome, clueless.
Old school metronomes probably too, right?
Oh yeah,
the little
yeah.
Knock,
Dink,
knock,
dink,
knock,
dink,
knock.
dink,
Your cat comes over and knocks it over.
Not happy with that. But the thing was, I proved to my parents that I was worthy for guitar lessons.
Oh.
Because I took it serious for 4 months. And then from there is the evolution. I took lessons. I learned this. I learned that. And then, it wasn't actually until there was I don't know if it still exists. It was called the Groove Academy. And I believe it wasn't in Metuchen. It was a town next to Metuchen, or it might have been right in Metuchen, New Jersey. And there was some incredible musicians there. And what it was based upon guys from Juilliard and Berkeley graduates, and they put together this music program, teaching school. And I met a cat named Bob Ferry who ran the guitar thing, and he's an old school, kind of hippie-ish kind of dude, guitar player. But he was everything that I wanted to be in a musician, because the guy can rip Red House by Hendrix and then play Wes Montgomery right after that.
Good mix of styles.
Which you don't
being
see.
able to. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, I was looking at that going, I've never seen a guy, shred like a mother on the rock and then go over and play Wes, Benson, these other cats, and fluently. I mean, ridiculous. I'm going, wow. I mean, talk about an amalgamation of everything, right? So I studied with him, and and one thing you don't know, I don't think you ever knew this, is that I got to a point where he had asked me to teach his beginner students, which I thought was an incredible honor.
Very nice.
But I couldn't do it because I had just gotten a career. I just got a new job to start up a company that nobody knew if it was going to make or not, called Fox News Channel, right? So it was a really kind of a crazy period, because he had wanted me to go to Berkeley, because I could test out the first 2 years at that point, and he knew the people. So
this was Berkeley College of Music in Massachusetts.
In Boston, yeah. So at that point I was studying a lot, and I went to the school to check it out, and I actually went there during an ice storm. My mom was kind of funny, and it's just funny, the trip, but it's great memories of my mom and I. But the whole thing was, I went there, and I remember saying to myself, my God, the only time, and I've never had it since, that I felt completely whole as a musician, or whole in a sense of immersed in the vibe of music, when I was at Berkeley, just visiting.
Yeah.
Incredible, because walking through, seeing these people, and then the vibe that was outside of Berkeley, it was just unreal. And I remember sitting there talking to the teacher, getting some ideas, and they said, well, yeah, we graduate 3,000 guitar players a year.
What year was this about?
Well, Fox, I started in 96. So I started the company in 96. So it was about 96, 95. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was right around there. 96, I think it was. And I kept thinking to myself, my God, man, I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough. There's no way. I mean, these play. I'm looking at 3,000 Ronnie Lakos. I mean, how the hell am I going to get it? I'm good, but I'm not that good. Like God didn't. And that was my thinking. It really was. Mm-hmm. And then I started thinking I didn't want to play jazz for a living. I didn't want to do this. I wanted to play Madison Square Garden.
Yep. You wanted to jump right up to the big leagues.
Yeah. I love creating music. Mm-hmm. I hate playing covers. So when I came back, I had gotten the other job. So it kind of forced my hand, real life, here's a job. Or I go there. I was still thousands of dollars in debt from Seton Hall when I graduated from Seton Hall University. I'd have to put on thousands, even more of debt on something that I don't even know if I'm going to make any money at. And I know that every year there's 3,000 guitarists that are playing, that at least half of them are going to be much better than me going into an arena where there's only so many people who get jobs. And I was thinking that scared the crap out of me. So I said, what I'll do? I'll just try to get with cats and play with people and create music and get into bands and record and do that and leave that behind. So that was what the journey was.
Did you have an understanding as far as like musical success was predicated not just on musical ability, but also on the music business aspect of it as well too? Did you have that going at all?
Well, I mean, I knew that, I knew that I was a good player, and I actually became a much, much better player as I got older. But the music industry, I didn't hardly knew anything about it. You know what I mean? I just knew the sense that it was very difficult and cutthroat to get into. But I wasn't looking at it going to Berkeley as I'm going to get into a band or do like what Dream Theater did. All of a sudden get together and you got 5 mega monster players and they become the next, the next Rush of the 90s. You know what I mean?
Or the first Dream Theater of the late 90s.
Of the late 90s, yeah. So it wasn't that. It was more like, being a session player, and then when you it's funny. That's what the reality meets the dream a little bit, and boy, this is going to lead into we'll really do a kind of a curve here. And this is something that
it's perfectly fine.
This would be something that'd be great for Warren here. There's a lot of people today, as you know, I'm a consultant in leadership management media, right? And that's what we do now. We'll get into that later. But the thing is that I wish the version of me can go back to where I was then and say to myself, look, you may not be able to be the great musician that you think you may want to be. That's stupid thinking. What you should do is go for what you want, but realize if you can't be the session player or you can't be the guy that makes it a Madison Square Garden, that doesn't mean you can't find a great living within something that you love to do.
You were thinking at that age that if you were at point A, you wanted to jump to point Z without realizing that there's probably B, C, D, a bunch of different things along the way.
Well, not to misconstrue it. It's not that I didn't think that I didn't want to jump from A to Z that not pay the dues. It wasn't that. It was that there are other avenues.
Okay.
And what I mean by that is a lot of people today, there's a lot of Gary Vaynerchuk's and a lot of people like that who come out and say to people, you have to follow your passion for young people. And to me, it's all surface advice. I mean, a lot of these guys don't go 2, 3, 4 layers deep. And what I mean by that is they'll turn around and say, well, you got to find your passion. Because a lot of the younger generation today, they're like, I got to find my passion. What am I going to do? I don't know what I'm going to do. Listen, man, I know where you're at because when I was 18 years old, I didn't know what the fuck I wanted to do. I didn't know what I wanted to do at 20. I got into my business by chance. But the thing is that what people aren't telling young people today is this, and this is the answer. The answer is, what passions and things that you love to do, okay? But if you're 5'4" and you want to be an NBA star, the reality is you're probably not. But that doesn't mean that you can't be in the NBA in some other capacity. I look at Phil Knight, I don't know his entire backstory, Phil Nike. And I don't remember if he was a runner or not. I don't remember how it was, but he had a passion for track and field. Obviously, he wasn't an Olympian. I'm pretty sure he wasn't. I don't think he did any of that. But he created the next wave of generation of shoes. And nobody's talking to these kids today to say, look, some people say, I want to be a NASA, I want to be an astronaut. The odds are you're not. But people will say to you, you can be anything you want to be. Now, that doesn't mean you can't go after trying to be an astronaut. But if you're not, understand that there's a million other things within that whole space program that you might be able to do and succeed at. And people aren't telling people that just because your passion is, I want to be an astronaut, I want to be president of the United States, I want to be this, I want to be that. If you don't reach it, that doesn't mean you can't be within that realm of what you're loving. Because too many people figure, if I can't be an NBA star, or I can't be an astronaut, or I can't be president, they just give up. They give up on the thing that they're passionate about. And then they become an accountant, and they become something else that they don't want to do. And then you become 40, 50 years old, and you're saying to yourself, shit, I wish I would have stayed in that area. I wish I would have stayed within my passion, because you could be an accountant for the NBA. You could be a physical therapist for something. There are avenues, and that's what people are not telling people.
Do you think it's also a little bit too, as you said, that your dream and of becoming a rock star musician, and I mean, no, everyone has had that. If you pick up the guitar and all of a sudden you play air guitar, you imagine yourself on Madison Square Garden, some stadium world stage.
Absolutely.
At 18, though, prior to 25, your advice is great and totally applicable.
Yeah.
However, it's something, as you even mentioned, that you realized it at I'm pretty sure a later age.
Right.
Usually when the prefrontal cortex for someone doesn't get really developed until like age 25.
Right.
So there's a combination of that, along with, if we hop back a bit, as you were saying, that this current generation has a lot of, has everything, has YouTube, social media, where not only does it give you a lot of instruction of how to play guitar, but so many examples of people quote, succeeding. Everywhere you look, you see, oh my God, look at this. I've released this album. Oh my God, look at this. I've done this. I've done this. I've done this. Yeah. And not only that, but you could even gather that probably 80% of it, you're like, oh, that's bullshit right there. As far as it's either airbrush, it's photoshopped, it's pumped up in a certain way. But what it seems to do is that, and I've seen it done to my peers of my age, not even just coming out of high school, where people are they see this wall of what it looks like. It looks like everyone is hitting 3-pointers from like half court. Sure. Everyone is hitting nothing but net. Right. And then so you want to just pick up a basketball and like you dribble and the thing, you fumble it. And you're like, crap.
Right.
And then you just self-defeat yourself. Do you think it has anything to do with this, a bit of a culture where you don't even have room to try things out, or even and when you do fail, what is it? You see fail compilations. Haha, look at this. It's forever immortalized on the internet.
Yeah, I know exactly where you're going with this. It's someone posted something to Facebook and said, "Do you think today is better or worse than what you had it years ago?" And I'll be honest, I think it's a mixture of both. I feel that it's very difficult for the younger generation. For a lot of reasons, and a lot of reasons, I'll tell you, I don't blame them. I don't put the blame on them. They have very poor guidance in some areas because a lot of people don't know how to speak truthfully. I think there's a lot of people, the media drives a narrative that everything is great. Look at me, look at me, look at me. It's all narcissist, and how great things are supposed to be. I mean, the Kardashians are making millions of dollars because she made a sex tape. I mean, that's exactly what it is. They're all narcissists, right? But the show has done great for how many years now? 10 years, 15 years? But that should tell you something right there. It takes work to get where you're going to go. There's just no way around it. But here's the thing, Eck. The thing is that, I grew up in a time you can make mistakes, you can figure things out. Nobody's going to beat you up on it, right? Today, they pick on you if you make a mistake or you do this or you do that. What I was saying before, but I wish I can go back and tell myself, what I want to say to Warren, is that, now you have all these supposed gurus and supposed people who are just throwing out advice all over the place. So now you have a situation where I don't know what I'm doing. Now I got 52 people telling me 52 different ways of how to do it. And now you really get confused.
Backseat telling them.
Oh, it's unbelievable.
It's fun. I'll admit, I'm guilty of doing that to my friends and peers as well too. A lot of it though is out of tongue in cheek, just poking fun at them, and because I've gone through it, and I'm like, hey, you know what? I think this is part of my. I've earned this. I've earned the shot to, hey, Bernie, I think you should do this with your consulting company.
Sure.
Because I've read this on the internet.
Right.
And what's on the internet must be true.
Right. And it's all anecdotal. And there's a lot of people that are in my field who, they come out, they do speaking and they do consulting, they tell people things. And all right, what have you done in your back? What's your background? What have you done? What is your experience? There's all these coaching programs. Oh, I want to be a life coach, and I want to be this, and they go to these programs, and I'm certified. Certified in what? You're learning somebody else's spiel. So it's like when someone says to me, like, we talk about leadership and management, and I turn around and I say, listen, I built 2 networks up that became number 1. I work for a company helped make $1 billion, and my department, I helped make over $100 million because of my teams. I could back it up. So the surface, and this is, again, it goes back to what I was saying, there's all surface advice, but not many people can go 3 or 4 layers deep. Because you could turn around and say, well, do this, 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 and this. Okay, then somebody asks you a question, well, how do I restructure a department if this happens and this happens? The person who's anecdotal doesn't have a clue, but I could tell you should do this, this, and this. You have to consider this, this, and this. And it's a whole, it's experience. And what the thing about the kids today, and I just want to quickly just say that, is like, look, here's my thing. There's a ton of information out there, but it's incumbent upon you to be able to decide which is right for you. If you have a passion for something that you love to do, go for it what you want, with the understanding that everyone has limitations and that you may not make exactly the thing you want to do, but within the realm of your passion, there is something for you. You don't have to give up on it. Like, if you love sports, there is something in sports that you can do for the rest of your life. Because trust me, when you get older, you're going to say to yourself, man, I wish I would stay within my passion. There's something else you would do. It's hard for people to think down the line, but that's all they're doing, isn't it? When you're 19 years old, I don't know what I want to do. I don't know what I want to do. You're thinking about the future, but it's hard to think about the future because you don't understand yourself now.
Just to play devil's advocate, what if their passion is, well, to set that up before, to kind of describe how they could arrive at this particular passion before I describe what it is. They're growing up. As you said, they don't know what they're doing, or they have kind of an idea, but it's fuzzy. It's foggy. It's not as sharp as if, I've done it 100 times and it's kind of like Groundhog Day where I can just predict when the next breeze is going to come in the next 15 seconds. Everything's foggy. You're being told you don't have enough experience yet. You're being told this. You're being told you're not qualified enough for it yet. Yet what you do know is that there's a lot of crazy things going on in the world. There's people dying. There's things going on with government. There may be something going on with the current political landscape. I'm not sure. When all of that is going around and they are thinking to themselves that, well, I just want to do something to help, to help change the world. What would you say to them at that point?
Focus on yourself.
Yeah.
You can't change the world. It's a fallacy. It really is. Listen, I'll get heat for this, but I'm going to tell you the straight truth on this. People are going to tell you everybody's born equal. You're not born equal. All right? It's number one, you're not. You're just not. And then number two, you say, I can change the world. You can't. I mean, what are you saying when you say that? I want to change the world. No, you're not. If you can't fix yourself, if you can't make yourself a better... Listen, if you make yourself a great person, you make yourself a really great human being, by extension, everyone that you meet will be better. You will change more people's lives if you are better. That's changing the world. You can't go out and just join a club and say, I want to change the world if you're a shithead. All right? You have to be great. And by extension, everything else will be great because because if you're great and you're good, everyone you meet, you talk to, and you will influence everyone. People don't realize how many people on a daily, like right now, how many people are hearing this that I have the opportunity to influence what I just said. I'm making them think right now. Either they're going to think Bernie's an idiot, or they're going to think, hey, I'm thinking.
Or they just love your voice right now.
Well, it's not, it's just the early morning voice, Hey, how you doing, baby? But, and when I say before, when this whole thing of everybody's born equal, you're not. Everyone has limitations. And nobody wants to talk about that because no one wants to hear it, and it doesn't sell. And what I mean by limitations, I mean, look, you want to be Einstein, but if your IQ is 70, you're not going to be Einstein. You want to be an NBA player, but you're 5'5", you're not going to be slam dunking unless, well, Spuds Webb goes 5'6". But I mean, God, he's one out of, that's, whatever.
Remember, who was it? Muggsy Bogues.
Muggsy Bogues, yeah. I mean, that's all I'm that's what I'm getting at, okay? But it doesn't stop you from wanting to go within the passion of the field you want to do. That's what I'm trying to say. Limitations are there for a reason. They're there to make you stronger in what you want to ultimately do. Okay, it's like mistakes. You make a mistake, you learn from them. But what mistakes really are stepping stones in your journey to the success that you want to ultimately achieve. Bumps in the road are guideposts to send you in a direction that you might not have thought about. This is real life, and this is what people don't want to hear. People don't want to tell. It doesn't sell. It's not sexy, but that's the truth. And what happens is that you get older, and you're sitting back going, "What the fuck happened, man? Where am I going? I'm making $40K a year. I could barely make the bills. I'm having this, and I'm hating life, and I got another 50 years to go." That's what I'm saying. It's a lot of bad information, a lot of bad advice to people. It's okay. I know I have limitations, man. If you think you don't have limitations, you're just lying to yourself. You got to wake up. You got to know that. And if you want to change the world, look, I worked in the news industry for over 20 years. Most of that time was spent producing news about a war, and everything else that I did.
Which news network was this?
Well, I started at America's Talking, which turned into MSNBC. Then I went to CNBC. Then I started Fox News Channel. And then from Fox News Channel, I branched over and started their Fox News Radio division. And
so you ran the whole gamut.
Oh, I did the gamut. And I did it from, I was in the business from 94 till a couple of years ago until they kicked me to the curb. That's just what it was. But, and I've seen so much stuff.
You have that 1,000-yard stare. You're looking at me right now.
Yeah, and I don't.
Coffee's not helping.
I saw the first beheadings. I heard the screams. I produced the 9/11 coverage that morning from 10 o'clock to 1 o'clock when I didn't know my dad was alive or not. The stuff you watch on TV, I produced it. There's a lot there. And all I'm just trying to say to folks is that, look, don't believe all the hype. Work on yourself. Go read some books. Go Google things that you have passion about to see what it's about. Great example I'm going to give right now. One of my best friend's sons, he's 12 or 13. And I talked to my kid with him. I love him. And he says, yeah, I want to be a real estate agent. And I said, really? I said, well, why? I thought that was kind of interesting, I go, why? And he goes, well, because, you can make 2% commission, you can make money, you can make this, it's a good thing.
Nice.
Now that's what he's thinking. You know exactly what I'm thinking the reality of that is. So I said, you do know that you work every weekend, right? And he goes, you do? I'm like, yeah. Maybe I don't like it so much. So it's a little simple thing, right? It's a young kid. And I think 10, 12, 13 years old thinking about something like that. I think that's great. Even at that, just Google it.
Yeah.
Google, what's it take to be? What kind of job is this? What's involved with that? What careers are available within this? Mm-hmm. Get some ideas, you were saying.
Yeah. I don't know if it was funny. It's just a lot more naive than that because I think I was in kindergarten. I said, Mom, Dad, I think I know what I want to be when I grow up. It's not an astronaut. He goes, what? I go, I want to work at the cash register.
There you go. That's where the money's at.
Exactly. And they go, why? Because they give me all the money.
That's it. I see the green, baby.
Yep. You just, for whatever reason, you stand there. Look at this. I hit a button, this little drawer opens, and people just hand me money.
It's like the real life ATM before ATMs were very big, right?
That's all you got to do. I really thought that's all there was. In that minute, I thought I had it figured out. I'm just going to stand there, and people are just going to hand me money. I just put it in my little drawer, and at the end of the day, I get to open that drawer and take all that money home.
Exactly.
Boy, was that! It was just as crushing as other myths.
Well,
I won't name certain characters just for Warren's sake.
Okay.
Well, no, he's going to listen to this way after. Yeah, Santa Claus, Tooth Fairy.
Well, come on, man. Saint Nick.
That's right.
Come on, I like Saint Nick. Actually, well, but we're not going to go there. We're not going to go there because actually, a new story came out, but I'm not going to go there. So it's interesting about all that stuff. I mean, I think the thing is, obviously this is for Warren, but the thing is that don't believe the hype. If you're going to change the world, just focus on yourself and make a better human being, because you don't realize how many people you touch in your life that you can influence. That's by making, man, how many people, I'll tell you, everybody is listening to this right now, right? Think about a moment when you were down and out of the blue, someone called you, or you got a message or a text or an email. Or you went to get a random cup of coffee, and the cash register, the person working the cash register was really nice with a big smile. Hey, how are you? What can I get for you today? And really, that brightened your day, right?
Yes.
That made your world that much better at that moment, right? That's what I'm talking about. And it's exponential. It's all exponential. And then you know what? If you want to go and join the Peace Corps, if you want to join an organization, or you want to do these other things that are grandiose, great. But if you make yourself that much better as a person, think of how much better you can make that organization. With that mindset. So,
I didn't want you to think that I was ignoring everything as I was flipping. I was trying to find a screenshot.
I know
that was pretty relevant to it, and I can paraphrase it because this has been shared so many times over on Facebook and other social media.
What are you saying? I'm not unique. I'm coming up with the same.
No.
I don't,
This is actually, as you were saying, it's an incredible message, and it's one that I'm hoping to push onto Warren as well too, as far as obviously work on yourself, build things up, and in this, the advice could apply to the current political climate of people. Hey, just take a step back, work on yourself. So when you take a step back, it's kind of like, all right, there's a battle going on. All right, just stay off the battlefield for a little bit, lick your wounds, get everything ready, or you decide to not, quote, participate in said battle.
Battle meaning what though? You're talking about left, right? You're talking about, or are you talking about specifically anything?
Any type of, once you hear this specific message, you'll probably figure it out. Where I'm paraphrasing it here. Where the quote was, hey, anyone who is not participating or not speaking up about what is going on in the world today or in this nation, that just shows your privilege. And it's almost, when I read that, the way I kind of interpreted it, I'm like, dude, I'm just not participating because I'm not participating because like I hear a bunch of people yelling and you sound like dum-dums. Right. But then they're calling out, no, because you're not arguing with us and you're not standing up. It just shows how privileged you are standing out there. So it's almost like you're calling. It's damned if you do and damned if you don't, basically.
Only if you listen to them. The issue, I think what you're saying is that, I think what you're saying about debate between left and right, liberal, conservative, or the political climate. Someone was saying something to me. I had asked about, when we talk about the Daily Burn, and I said, hey, any kind of subject matter, something like that, what people like me to talk about? And one person said, they said, how do you start a conversation when two sides are so opposed to one another? And I haven't done it yet, and quite frankly, I don't know if I would, because I think that's more far afield in terms of there's a psychological aspect of it. But what I see is this: if you can't come to the table and have a conversation with somebody if not willing to compromise. You just can't. And you can't come to the table and talk to somebody and compromise if you think that you are 100% correct and there's no fallacy to anything you say.
You're not looking to go in to learn. You're just looking to push something.
Exactly. And what is that? That's ego. That's ideology. That's exactly what it is. So what's the point? So you can't find the middle ground if you think if you're not wrong at all. Now, I say this to you, I'm looking right at you. Forget the political climate, forget that. If I say to you 100% Eddie Van Halen is the absolute greatest guitar player on the planet, there's nobody better than him. No one.
Words.
There's no one.
Yep, them fighting
There's
words.
no one.
I know.
There's absolutely no one.
Mm-hmm.
And I come with that attitude.
Yeah.
You're going to be like, dude, come on, man.
Fighting words.
It's fighting words, right?
Yeah.
It's like, what are you talking about? Right? There's no, well, what about Eddie? Eddie was a drunk. No, it doesn't matter. He still was the greatest guitar. If you can't be open-minded, and I mean open-minded, I'm not saying kumbaya. I'm talking open-minded where that you are not 100% correct. There are areas of compromise. There are areas to have a conversation on, and you have to be willing and honest with that, which means you have to be honest with yourself and your situation. And a lot of the stuff that's going on today is media-fueled because people do not take the time to go ahead, research, and learn. And the media is driving the narrative because that's what they do. It's not like it used to be. And people buying into it. And I will tell you, it's groupthink. And that is the scariest freaking thing, is groupthink.
Some type of tribalism.
Oh, it's
some
horrible.
Type of...
People think it's great. It sucks. Are you kidding me? Tribalism and this and that. I got my tribe of people. Yeah, it's cool. We go out, we do our thing. But I'm jumping off the bridge. Yay, I'm going to go do that. You know, I mean, go watch the end of Saturday Night Fever. You're going to tell me how I felt when the guy jumped off the bridge. You know what I mean? It's stupid. It's stupid, you know? And people have to learn to think for themselves. You know, what was the thing? All right, the gun thing. I'll bring this up. The gun thing with the Vegas, right? They come out with this and they say right away, within moments, and I'll tell you, and this is where I came up with a very difficult thing about whether or not to do this on a daily burn, which I didn't do because I didn't think there was any value to it because I didn't want to be incendiary. But this is how I felt about it. I go, where we have lost respect for people who have died. We've become so accustomed to these mass shootings. When I was working in the news industry, I used to say, all right, how many people died today? Oh, we got 15 people died. All right, well, then the next one, you got to have 20, right? I mean, because that's what it is. That's why it leads. That's why it gets more attention and it gets crazy. It's disgusting. It's the truth. And the fact is that all these people that passed away, hours later on, the whole gun debate comes out. The bodies weren't cold. The crime scene blood wasn't even cleaned up. 500 people were fighting for their lives in the hospitals. And yet all people can do all over social media and everything is land-based people about gun control. Then it went a further deeper where people conflated country music with Republican Trump supporters, gun advocates, that they didn't feel sympathy for those people. And then it went into, I'll even say this, which didn't get him any press, Monday Night Football the next day, 2 Kansas City Chiefs people still sat out the American flag, used it as a pawn, and used the anthem as a pawn in their thing about police brutality. And I'm saying to myself, but all those cops of mixed races ran to the gunfire in Vegas. The one day we could have stood united. Everybody's thought process in my mind is so askew. When people die, have a little respect for people. Give it 24 hours. Give it 48. Let's mourn the loss. And then let's start the debate. When you interject, like Hillary Clinton and a lot of these other people, late night hosts interjected, you made it about you. You didn't make it about the debate. You interjected yourself with your agenda. If you waited a couple days later on and then talked about it, how much more open would people be about it? Because who are you trying to influence? Those folks that are in gun control. They're trying to influence the people who are on the other side, that something has to happen here, right? That we need to come together. Well, you're not going to do that by aggravating everybody every time. But if you waited and showed some respect in general for loss of life, and you brought the conversation up a couple of days later, I bet you would have got a lot more people okay with it. That's just my feeling on it. Mm-hmm. You know, I'm not giving you my views on gun control and this and that. It doesn't matter what I believe. Mm-hmm. I'm talking about trying to get people to talk and just find conversation and agreement. You know, that whole scene, you know, and people rush to judgment. I mean, you know, and the funny part is those people who came out and conflated the issue, saying, well, the country music and the Trump and this and that. Well, how idiots do they look right now? Because it wasn't less than 36 hours later or something like that, they found out that he was might have hit the rap concert with Chance the Rapper. I think it was in Vegas. That he bought a hotel room. Oh. Right? Oh, yeah. See, people don't pay attention. The guy went ahead and I forgot what hotel it was. It was in Vegas and was trying to get a hotel overlooking the rap concert. Right? And as a finding right now, he got rooms that was overlooking Lollapalooza. I think it was in Chicago. I think it was. All right. So I'm pretty sure people at Lollapalooza and Chance the Rapper concert aren't the most gun advocate or Trump supporters. So if they went ahead and they killed all the people at a rap concert, then we're not supposed to where are we going as a people here? You know, you're Americans. You know, it's the greatest country on the freaking planet, man. Get with it. You know, think, research, look at stuff. Stop making opinions about things. I mean, and that's the thing too. It's and that's the bad thing, Eck. There's so many people saying so much shit and so much incorrect information that it's just too hard to rebuttal it all. You know, it's what they call fake news and all that stuff. You know, I was reading somewhere, I mean, they're like, oh, we're going to get rid of fake news. Good luck with that. You're never going to get rid of fake news. Not with social media around, you won't. Because there's no guardians of the gate. I was the guardian of the gate. You know, we're pros at what we did. These people are not pros. So, yeah, I mean, you know, you got to just shut up. And that right there goes back to how do we make this place a better world, right? Mm-hmm. Well, just chill out a second. If we can't mourn the loss of a life, I don't know what to tell you. Right?
Yep. So going with the fact, as you said, that you do want to try to work on yourself, is that one of the solutions? Especially in this phase, especially in the face of like a lot of tragedy and horror that happened. Where, as you were recapping, it seemed like when that happened, everyone on a lot of sides were just jumping up and trying to shout out for their specific team, their mm-hmm. specific tribe. And so going away from that mm-hmm. and trying to just talk, mm-hmm. essentially, it's almost like a going back. Let's not yell at each other. Mm-hmm. Let's not debate. Let's have a talk. Let's have a discussion.
Right.
Do you think there's anything as far as social media or other forms of media that do they have to ramp things down? Do they have to take a drastic turn in order to push that type of coming together narrative? Whereas instead of sitting down and you have a 4-panel, you know, mm-hmm. I have someone from this side, I have someone from this side. I have a supposed mediator.
Which is, by the way, bullshit, I can tell you that.
Mm-hmm. And it seems to a lot of us, it's, they're just looking for that 30-second sound bite. Mm-hmm. And these topics, gun control, abortion,
right.
These have been going on for longer, since well before I've been born.
Sure.
Longer than you've been born. And it almost seems as if, like, how do you really think your one blog post of 1,000 words mm-hmm. has the solution to a problem that's been going on for 30 plus years, 40 plus years, past your lifetime? Do you really think a 30-second soundbite will solve that? So, and do you really think a half-hour show is going to, again with the 30-second soundbite, is going to solve that? What type of discussion do you think has to happen in order to arrive at maybe not a solution, but at least an understanding?
Well, I think you got the world view, you got the general, the big population view, and then you have the individual, right? And you know, going back to saying you can change the world, you know, you have to focus on yourself. And I truly believe, look, social media is just a vessel for people to get their message out. Mm-hmm. That's all it is, right? So, who is the messenger? And what is the delivery system? And how are you using that delivery system to reach what audience? So Instagram use pictures more, Twitter use 140 characters, and you figure out how to spell and use grammar, you become better. It's just unbelievable. And Facebook Yeah. Well, but the thing is about all this is that I say this. If you focus on yourself and try to make yourself a better person, then by extension, you're influencing other people. You be thoughtful in your posts. You be thoughtful of other individuals. And that's how it starts. That's it. The medium itself can't regulate anything. Mm-hmm. It just can't. It's not into regulation. It's there to have social interaction with people. But if you want to be a troll, or if you just want to start problems, and that's who you are, what are you going to do? There's millions of people like that. Yeah, I'll give you an example. I had Phil Murphy was running for governor in New Jersey, and I did a simple little tweet the other day, and he's coming out firebranding on all this stuff, right? And quite frankly, the stuff that people are saying, right? And I wrote back, I said, okay, you want to do this? He was about gun control. He jumped on the narrative and he goes, we need to do this about gun control and we're going to make it safer. So I wrote in a tweet, I said, give me details. What are you trying to do? Because New Jersey has some of the strictest gun laws in the nation. I think Chicago's number one. Illinois might be number one. I'm not sure. And don't hold me to it, gun guys, but I know New Jersey is very difficult.
New Jersey is difficult. Jess and I took a pistol introduction course, and the first hour they just went over laws.
Yeah, it's very tough. Yeah, it's very tough. So what are you trying to do? What are you trying to do? And I had people jumping on me. Well, the laws, and then you're not Murphy, and then what about the other side? And look, I'm just asking. And somebody says, well, it's on his website, but I know it's on his website. But you're using the medium to jump on a narrative to try to get your base excited, and I'm asking a question. Give me some details. Now I know he's not doing his Twitter thing. He's got his own press people doing it. And Murphy's not doing it. But the thing is that I want to call him out. So one person got on me and says, "You're probably not even from Jersey. You don't know shit." Bah, 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 bah. I wrote back. I says, "Listen, I know about the state very well. I've been here for a long time. I'm just posing a question. Murphy, what are the details?" She comes back and says, "Oh, I apologize. I was referring to the person above. Please accept my apology." I wrote back. I says, "Thank you. No problem."
Yep.
Now I could have firebranded back and been that guy. And what does it do? A lot of times when it comes to, if you have a point of view, you get so easily pulled away from your point of view what you're trying to do because other people throwing fireballs at you. Stay where you want to go. I think all this stuff, the conversation, again, it comes back to this. Focus on yourself. Make yourself as best human being you can be. Get educated about what people are trying to talk about and discuss. All right. Real quickly about the gun thing, and this is and here's an interesting thing. They talk about these bump stocks. Right. Now, I'm a Second Amendment believer. I'm a full-fledged believer in that, and I'm a full-fledged everybody should be allowed to have a gun. I don't have a problem with that. Do I believe in regulation? Absolutely. But here's my thing on it. They were talking about the bump stocks, right? And I'm sitting there going, "Wow, what's a bump stock?" Right? Mm. And I go, "Wow, they took an assault weapon." Okay, assault weapon, it's a single shotgun, whatever. It's all words.
It took a semi-automatic.
Yeah, semi-automatic, and he made it more like automatic,
Pretty much, I've seen
right?
videos. That is
pretty serious
scary,
shit. So I'm going to myself. I'm going, wait a minute, that shit's illegal.
That's
so someone made something legally to make a gun illegal.
It's fucked up.
I'm like, that's what the fuck, man.
It's like semantics.
It's like, come on, man. I mean, I'm sitting there going, yeah, I'm a conservative guy. I'm going, I'm like, get rid of that shit. I mean, come on, it's common sense. Mm-hmm. And then you got people coming out and they're saying, and this is the funny part, they'll come out and say, well, having a bump stock makes, if he had a bump stock on there, he can't shoot that well
as accurately as right. Get out of here.
And I'm like, here's my thing. Fine. What you're saying is true, okay? I'm not an expert on it, okay? But what I do know, which is common sense, is that even if it's in short bursts, you can shoot more bullets. That might not be a good thing. And you know what? When you got crowds of people huddled to try to get through like a bottleneck going to an exit door, how accurate do you fucking need to be? I mean, come on, people, use some logic sense here. So I'm saying to myself, I'm going, yeah, why don't you get rid of that? And here's some loopholes in some other areas too. Why don't you do that? Right? We're having a conversation about it. Okay. But the problem is that you got people who want to get rid of the Second Amendment, and there's other people say you want to have the Second Amendment.
And a specific agenda.
But nobody knows why the Second Amendment is there for. It's there so that way we can be armed against in case of tyranny of a government to try to take over its people. That's what it's all about. And we have the right to bear arms. Simple, basic, not a big deal. But people argue that either way. But the bum stock thing is funny. It comes out. I mean, you and I are logical people. Whether you like guns or not, it doesn't matter. I think guns are fine, and I'm sitting going, well, that's a stupid thing. Get rid of it, man. Why the hell is that even allowed? And oh, by the way, they go, well, Trump's a bad guy. He allows it. Well, it was under Obama, and Obama's ATF is the one who approved it. But we can't say that because, that goes against our narrative. The people who are same in line with the gun control. I'm like, oh, people, you're all fucked up. I mean, come on, man. You can't even acknowledge it. It wasn't the Republicans. It was the ATF under Obama. And I'm going, but who cares, man? Who cares? People are dying. Let's do the right thing. It doesn't matter politically. And that's what people are getting sucked up into. I got to be this way. If I'm conservative, I got to be pro-life.
There's a checklist.
There's a checklist, man. The checklist was religion, abortion, guns, free speech. I mean, it's just unbelievable the list you have to be under. I'm going, that's not the way the world is, man. It's more center to right, center to left. That's why. Here's the thing. This country is phenomenal. Things are going great. We have great people. There's this racism stuff is nowhere near what people are talking about. There isn't, in my opinion. All those other problems they say there's going on, there is nowhere near what the narrative is being driven through the media. And the media is fucking driving this thing. It drives me up the world because they're wrong. They're wrong. The media drives a narrative, and that narrative is driven to incite their base so that they can get the ratings, which can drive advertising so they can make freaking money. That's the God's honest truth. Okay? And here's the thing about it. All the thing about it is that people get sucked into this Kool-Aid mentality because they want to hear what makes them feel good. And that's what it's all about. They don't want to learn, because if people were sitting there learning, they wouldn't watch half this shit. You're listening to late night talk show hosts influencing you. Are you out of your fucking mind? I mean, come on. Jimmy Kimmel. All these other people. All of them. You listen to celebrities. Really? The highly educated celebrities are telling you things. Either way, it doesn't matter. And they're influencing you to make a decision without you going ahead and doing some research to learn on your own.
I think there was an article even put out that exactly what you were saying of Hollywood preaching gun control. Yet you look at John Wick 1, John Wick 2, a glorification pretty much of gun culture.
Sure.
So,
look, I don't care what you do. Just be leery of who you're listening to. Now I guarantee you right now, people are like, oh, you're a Fox guy, you're this and that. Look, man, Fox has a lot of fucked up shit. And here's the thing with the media. All right, here's the straight on the media. The news industry was just a news industry. Okay, a lot of companies bought up a lot of the industry. All right, the news industry turned into a brand. And what's a brand? All about making money. All right. I wrote an article a long time ago after the election, and everyone was saying how the heck they could miss this, that Trump could win, right? And I go, it's not hard to believe. As a matter of fact, I wasn't surprised at all because the people that are there live on the coasts and not realizing that there's 46 other states in the middle, something like that.
What is it? They treat them as flyover states. Right?
Flyover states, right? And I'm saying to myself, I'm going, the reason why you as a consumer of MSNBC, CNN, and Fox might not have gotten the narrative right is because that's all you're listening to, you're not hearing, and because that's the only thing they're talking about.
Kind of like an echo chamber.
It's the most
actually not brutal. Kind of
it
exactly
is,
an echo chamber.
It is, and the thing is that you have. Here's the thing in the media: you have highly intelligent people that are pretty freaking smart. All right, like the Maddows, the Matthews, the O'Reillys. They're the smart people. Let me tell you, I know some of these people. They're very smart, and they can wield words and they can wield things together to make it look factual. I'm not saying that everything they say is wrong, and I'm not saying everything they say is factual, but they're masters at manipulation when it comes to words and what they want to do. Regular folk can't see through that. And they get angry with me when I say you can't see that. And they're like, well, I'm not stupid. I'm not saying you're stupid. I was a professional editor. I can make Obama look like a goddamn conservative if I wanted to. It's not hard to do. You understand? And that's what happens. It's the Kool-Aid. It's the Kool-Aid. I had someone ask me, he says, how come Fox always looks so right-wing, it's right-leaning, this and that? I go, I'm going to tell you the truth right now. They're like, what? I said, it's not as right as you think it is right now. I go, it's center-right. And they're like, what do you mean? And I go, listen, Fox was very right-wing at one point. They came back towards the center a little bit. They're more center-right right now. The reason why they look so damn right-wing is because CNN went completely left and MSNBC's out there with them.
So perspective.
It's absolutely perspective. And people say, well, that's not true. It's bullshit. It is absolutely true. Acknowledge what it is. It is. If you can't acknowledge and see for what it is. Listen, I don't give a shit what you listen to, and I don't really give a shit what you like and don't like. And I don't care what your ideology is. It doesn't really make a difference. But you got to acknowledge what you're looking at and be honest with the situation. You know, if you're gonna watch Hannity or something like that at night, you know what you're gonna get. If you're gonna watch Rachel Maddow, you know what you're gonna get. You know, but there are some in between. Like Brett Baer is one of the best guys I know. Brett Baer is a phenomenal. That show is good. I'm not talking about the discussions. He actually does his discussion pieces in the back pretty good. But I know those reporters. They're straight up great reporters. I know them personally. They're great at what they do. But there's not that much of it in it, and that's what has happened with the media is. See, when the cable news came out, it was all about the news, trying to do the news, right? And then they had some commentary at night. And how they said we're still a news organization is that they would still have these 1 minute updates of so and so and cut them in between at the primetime shows. Well, what they started seeing was that the primetime shows were making a lot of money, they were getting a lot of the ratings, right? There's a lot of reasons for that. But it was really driven by the anchors, which became characters and what they were, the O'Reillys and this and that. Good shows. I mean, they're fun, right? But what happened is over the time, those all seeped into the entire day where every hour starts to become branded. They become branded. You know? That's why CNN started losing a lot because they kept Wolf Blitzer on for the last 10 years for all those hours. Nobody gives a shit about Wolf Blitzer to watch him all the time. They didn't brand. Fox was smart. They started branding. Everybody brands. MSNBC. It's all started branding out the shows. So what happens is it becomes more commentary driven than it does become news driven. And it gets harder to pierce between the two. You know, it's hard to see what's going on. And then, of course, the papers follow suit and everybody follows suit. And then after that Bush Gore thing, oh, forget about it. It was like, bam. When Bush Gore happened, that whole thing with the Chads in Florida went to Supreme Court, that was it. Battle lines were drawn. It was over after that.
That's where you see the.
That's the watershed mark because that's where the money and the ratings and boom, right through the roof. Absolutely, because let me tell you something, and this is again, I got to write a book on this. When we started in cable news, all right, so people just give a perspective, folks. I started at America's Talk and was turned to MSNBC. Then I was at CNBC. I was there for TWA Flight 800 when I went downstairs to talk to Andy Lack when Brian Williams did his thing on air. Okay, I was there for the OJ stuff. I was there for all that stuff. What the thing about cable news is this: it's 24/7. You have to fill it. You have to fill it. It's hard to fill. I remember being a booker, a young guy, and people be like, "Who's Fox News Channel?" You know, they don't know who Fox News Channel is. They thought it was Fox 5. We're trying to book people on the show. The cable news, yeah, CNN was around, but it wasn't like the monolith that it is today. You know, first of all, and I'll give you a couple of reasons why. One, the reach. Cable wasn't spread all over the country at the time. Okay, like now I forgot how many. I think pretty much almost every household is able to get cable right now. But back in the day, Fox had to pay. Fox paid for every subscriber for the first 12 million or 14 million. They paid per subscriber to get on. They paid. Right? And they only had like 12 to 14 million or something like that. You can look it up, but I mean, these are generalizations. The same thing with MSNBC when they came on. They made it, the reason why is MS, that people forget, they made a deal with Microsoft, and that's how they got the money. They got the money from Microsoft to go with it and do with NBC. And, you know, again, there's probably more details there. Guys, I don't have the computer in front of me. But that's how the MS and MSNBC came on board, right? And Microsoft is not involved with them anymore now, just so everybody knows. But the thing is, when it all started, you know, they had no share. Share being how many people watched them at night. There was nobody watching them. Everybody was still watching the big three at 6:30, ABC, NBC, and CBS. Okay? I think it was still Brokaw. It was still Rather, and was it still Williams? I think Williams was the guy, the early guy back there for ABC. Either way, the thing is,
I think I was watching Monday Night Raw.
Right.
So,
but
anyway.
that's how it started. Then, and I say this all the time. Then came Jean-Benet Ramsey. Jean-Benet Ramsey story. You see, when Jean-Benet Ramsey story, people don't know. You should look it up. It's an interesting story. Little white girl, pageant girl, I believe it was, out of Colorado. She was lost. I think she was found murdered, and forgive me, folks. I don't remember all the details, but it was. You have to understand. It was a white girl, pageant girl, middle America, Colorado. This is pre all the crazy shit in the world, and was missing. It had all the stories, right? Sex, salaciousness, all this stuff, because the parents were all kind of fucked up and all this and that, right? All the stuff people was going on in the media. When we did the story, they did it at night, and they realized they can go a whole hour on one story, and the ratings were right through the roof. And they go, wow, we can do one story and harp on one story, and we're getting these ratings. And that started it all. That's how Nancy Grace became big. That's how Greta Van Susteren, I believe, was one. Back in the day with Stan Goldman, some other people. All these people became household names because of that. Now, obviously, OJ was another big thing, too. And they started realizing that, hey, we could take one story and just run with it, and the ratings go up. Now, what happens then? What happens? Well, what happens is that you, as a consumer, you don't know what else is going on in the world. But so what they do is they put that 1 minute newscast in there with about 3 stories in there, and it's, hey, we're doing the news. Or you have a show or two at night that talks about the news, but they focus more on this, right? You could see the percentages of how things got split during the daytime. So that's how 24/7 News started figuring out, hey, we can get ratings up, we can start getting attention, right? And then came the hammer, Bush Gore. And that's it. It brought everything out. It brought people out. It had everything. It was reality TV, and that's what it was. And
it was simple too, one-on-one.
Oh,
my side versus
your side. Oh God, the whites versus minorities, the conservative versus the liberals. It's all this shit narratives that you couldn't draw it up better. It sells, right? That's right. So you could see, if you go back where we are today, you could start looking back on how things were. You know what I mean? People go, well, because what happens is in the climate that we have today, politically, and what's going on in the news industry, this is what happens. It's like a dusting of snow, right? You ignore a dusting of snow. But if you ignore it too long, you can't open your door, and you go, how the hell did this happen? Well, this is how it all got built up. And so then, you had the Bush Gore thing. It became this problem, then it went on, then it was on other things, and then it became racial issues, and and it just expands. Obama goes into the White House. That created some other issues, which it was, I don't care what the color of your skin is. You're liberal, conservative. I don't care. It doesn't matter to me. It's what you believe in, right? Mm-hmm. And you have Trump. I mean, Trump, the way he ran his campaign and did what he did, could never have existed if it wasn't for social media, and if it wasn't because of all the predecessors with their own discourse and discontent for half of Americans in this country. He would never have been a president 8 years ago. 4 years ago, maybe would have had a shot. But it's the climate today that sets up. I've always said this. I'm not the only one. Presidents are made for the time that they're voted in on. Mm-hmm. The way Trump is would never have been voted in on, I don't even think 4 years ago. Maybe, but I doubt it. But it's the time. It's the time we live in, So
do you think it's due to kind of like that, as you were saying, left and right? Did the pendulum kind of swing a little too far to one side, so that and their message was a little too overbearing? So this is kind of like a bit of a balancing act.
Well, whose message?
Left. If you count 2 terms of Obama, right? If you say that was there too much of a liberal message, was it over the course of the years? You would think like, oh, all right, one side is trying to push this much policy or drive culture that way, and then for whatever reason, culture rises up, and then it eventually gets into politics, and then it tries to right itself, and then it starts swinging one way. Right. Do you think it was kind of it was inevitable that it would have happened?
That's a phenomenal question, and I think it could be. I'm going to do the Forrest Gump answer here. I think it's a little bit of both.
A little bit of column A, a little bit of column B. That's the Archer answer. I'm giving you an updated culture reference.
Okay. I love that Gump answer. I got to tell you, I use that all the time. People say to me, I don't know if it's Lieutenant Dan thinks we're having destiny, or I think I got Bill Clinton doing Gump here. Holy shit! And then it's Mama with like a feather floating around the breeze and all that. And he goes, I think it's just a little bit of both. And I thought about that. I go, yeah, wow, it's interesting.
I think it's a little both. He said it too. He said it in like a question way. He goes, yeah, I think it's a little bit of both because
that is one of my favorite movies of all time, and people just miss the point. The point is that last 5 minutes of the movie. That is the point. If you go back and look at that movie with the mindset of, is my life, what's the meaning of life? Why am I here? Go with that mindset and say, is it predetermined, destined, or are we floating around in the breeze like a feather? That's the movie. And that's why when you see him in all these different places, that's why, it's such a great movie, because here's a guy who is not highly intelligent, who is influencing so many people along the way. If you think about it, it's a movie, but you just don't realize how much influence you have. Was Tom Hanks's character predetermined to do what he did? Maybe his destiny was predetermined, but maybe he was the feather for everybody else that he influenced.
You're getting deeper here, Bernie. You're going more into, is there such thing as free will? Is there such thing as choice? And then I'm no expert. I mean, you would have to listen to Sam Harris because he argues it highly towards one way. You could listen to Jordan Peterson. He argues it the other way. But bringing it back to that
pendulum thing. Yeah, I think the thing of what happens with that is that. Again, and this is I'm beating a dead horse here, but it's what you listen to. I think when it comes to politics, you have to know what you firmly believe, what your beliefs are, what this country is all about. What is it to be an American? What do you believe in? What do you believe in? And what are your beliefs based on? What have they been influenced by? And then come up with your own answer. As opposed to listen to all these people telling you all this stuff. I tell you, I talk about failure when I consult, for people, and there's a lot of, and this, let me just branch off a second when it comes back to this. It's people like to say that, if you quit, you're a failure, and that you're only a failure if you quit. And again, I put that in the category of bullshit. Sometimes it's okay to quit on something, but that's the surface discussion. The 3 to 4 levels deep is this. What they're actually saying when people say that, these so-called gurus and mentors, they're saying as long as you're doing something, physically doing something or mentally, whatever it is, you're not quitting. But the truth is that you could be failing in your processes, in your journey to your goal. And when you fail in your processes, you're going to wear yourself down. And then when you wear yourself down, you're going to quit. And by extension, you're going to think you're a failure. Meaning that if you do the same thing over and over again and make mistakes and don't see it for what it is, you're not going to get anywhere. And that's what people don't tell you. So when I preach about failure, I say there's 4 things that can help you so you don't fail. And the first one is decisive decision making. And when I talk about that, I say, listen, you have to make, and this goes into this stuff as well. You have to be able to make decisions without having 100% of the information. You have to. You have to learn to be uncomfortable in the situation to be a leader, right? if you wait for all the information all the time, you're going to get left behind, right? That's in terms of leadership and management and dealing with business. But even in real life, you have to learn to say, this is my decision. This is how I feel about something, okay? But the key component to that is flexibility. If you are stringent in your decision making with no flexibility, you will fail anyway. You know, imagine a skier going down a mountain, okay? And he has a line that goes from A to B, right? And the shortest way to get from one place to the other is A to B, right? But we all know in life and we all know in business that it's not an A to B line. It's more like a squiggly line going back and forth, side to side, okay? So you use that line as your guidepost. And what happens is with a skier, they go side to side, right? Slaloming down, right? They try not to go too far one way or too far the other way, because if they do, they end up in the trees and they die, right? So they keep an eye on the center line, but they have to go side to side to get where they got to go. But when you look closely at the line that they carve in when they go side to side, it's got a little flexibility, a little bend to it. That's decision making, right? You're going back and forth, you're going towards the goal, but you have to have a little flexibility in your decision making, right? So that's one thing when it comes to failure. You have to have decisive decision making. You have to have flexibility at the same time. The second thing is about course correction. You can't. You're arrogant if you think you're not going to make mistakes, and you can't allow the fear of making mistakes stopping you from doing what you want to do. You have to look at mistakes as what they are: learning moments, stepping stones in your journey towards success. Right? It's that simple. But here's the kicker: it's being objective, and that's what you're talking about. Your thing in this is it's the idea of being objective. Right? And you have to be able to step out of where you are and look at things objectively. If people looked at the world objectively and looked at all the shit that comes out of the politician's mouth and everything, you would look at it and go, well, if you take out your bias and take out your emotions and look at it, you go, man,
tough.
You people
Very tough to do that.
Your people are insane.
Very tough to do that.
And that's also the thing about in business. I tell people in business, you have to be objective. You have to step out and look at the situation for what it is, as if you had no skin in the game. If you can do that, that's really going to push your success, because then you will make the decisions that are necessary that might be holding you back based upon emotion and fear, right? And then lastly, you have to have the guts to do it. And everybody that's listening to this has the guts to do what they need to do. Everyone does. It's taking those first steps to get them there that's the scariest. And what I tell people all the time is take bold first steps. Don't tiptoe. Take big steps in the sand so people could see where you went. Because you're going to make mistakes. If you make mistakes in the beginning, fine. But you're going to do them anyway. But if you're going to be a decision maker, if you're going to do these kinds of things, no one follows a timid person, right? And no one follows a person that's indecisive. So I'd rather you make a mistake and be bold in your mistakes than making a mistake and go, ooh, I'm sorry. And then that just
fail spectacularly.
Oh my God. Yeah. I mean, if you're timid in your mistakes that you make, then you just made it even worse, because not only did you make a mistake, but then all of a sudden you're taking a mistake is like, oh, you get up and go. So, I went off a little bit here, but
go ahead.
It's the objective stuff. It's being objective, and that's where it takes time. I mean, I feel bad. College kids go to college, all this groupthink, all those things I see. I'm like, oh my God, aren't we supposed to go to? I mean, look what's going on in Berkeley.
You've seen that? Yes.
I mean, come on, man.
Berkeley, what is that? Everstate Green College, Evergreen. I think it was.
God, such pains in the asses. I mean, shit. Bring that shit over here. Back in the day, are you kidding me? That stuff never would have flown. I don't care. Get up on it. Listen, you can get up on a podium and speak anything you want. You're not hurting me, man. This is the thing. I'll tell you something real quick. The whole Charlottesville thing, right? Those folks, the white nationalists, the scumbags, they're terrible people, right? But they have a right to protest or do the march.
First Amendment.
Absolutely. A woman on CNN, this was great. This is why CNN sucks so much, is that the woman goes on and says, hate speech is not protected speech. Of course it is, man. Like, well, what's hate speech? Go read your history. Read your history for the last 200 years. Most of the revolution, everything that went on and changed this world, has been what could be considered hate speech back then. I mean, come on, man. So we saw that, and everybody's getting, and they had the Antifa and all this stuff going on. And I'm saying to myself, I'm going, when I was in the news business, right, I'm like, yeah, let's put them on TV, man. Let's show it. Let's show it.
Because
you're exposing the sons of bitches, man. You know, that's the thing. It's like in Berkeley, like, we don't want the right-wing people to come out and talk, blah, blah, blah. Do it. You don't get it. You're so concerned about these people coming out and spewing an agenda, and you're not thinking that maybe what they're spewing will turn more people off and say, listen, you're right, they're wrong.
So it's kind of like you have an arena of free thought. Absolutely. You let these a battle of free ideas, free speech. Mm-hmm. They come in. You have one idea versus the other idea. Let everyone hear it.
Yep.
And if one of them goes, dude, that's stupid. Let it just fail in front of you, as opposed to. And what's the? It's almost like a schoolyard thing. Like when you tell kids, "Hey, no, don't say this word." Don't. It's almost like you empower something that you hide.
It's basic instinct, man, and that's exactly what it is. And the more you get to want to clamoring down on people, the more you're driving into the other people's side narrative. Expose it all. Look, people talk about race and prejudice and all this and that, right? And everybody's racist and everybody's prejudiced. Oh man, come on. You know what I'm saying? I believe that everybody has some prejudice in them. I don't believe everybody has racist in them. And I say to myself, I'm going, well, let them go talk, let them speak, let them expose themselves. I mean, in this day and time with social media, you'll get eviscerated or it will never go away. You can't hide it. So let them do their thing, right? Let them do their thing. On the flip side, you have these people like Antifa coming out and they're causing violence, and people justify that. There's people in the colleges and all justifying that kind of stuff that think it's okay to do that. I mean, it was some kind of poll. It's at 15-20% people think it's okay. I'm like, okay,
to punch a Nazi.
Yeah, dude, so no. Forget Nazis. I mean, forget them punching. I mean, them just doing what they're doing, whether it's going against conservative viewpoints, coming out with violence. Mm-hmm. So I guess it's okay if someone else sons of bitches come up to me and I bash their head into the ground, right? I mean, where do you take it? So if you think it's okay for Antifa to go out and beat the crap out of other people because they don't like something, to shut it down with violence, then if I was there in turn and I just beat the shit out of this guy in his submission, then it's okay I did that too, right? And then it's okay for him to come around and shoot me, right? Because I did that. And it's okay if I come out and I blow up his house. Whoa, it's stupidity. It's stupidity. So it's like violence is bad. Hurting people is bad. Free speech should never ever come down to violence like that. Mm-hmm. It shouldn't.
Or censoring to the point that it has to escalate to said violence.
Absolutely. It's doing the wrong thing. So I say to you, Eckie, and I think you know where I'm going with this.
Yep.
What's the purpose of doing it all? Why? There's always, see, and this is the thing. This is the 3 to 4 levels deeper than the surface. What's the reason why it's going on like this? Why do you think?
This is something where I'm just observing.
Think about it. There's an agenda. There's a point when you subverse people or you shut people down.
Control.
Exactly. That's it, right? If you stop people from having another point of view, then it's all groupthink, and it's only one point of view. And then when I've seen.
So that's the end game then.
Oh, I think it goes even deeper than that. But then, I wouldn't come out and say it in public because I don't think there's enough information yet. I have theories, which I don't think this is what we should be doing. No. But I think that it's all about, when you do that, it's control. Mm-hmm. And I also think that it's a bad thing because.
Which could then lead to other
problems, which you don't want. I mean, I'll give you a good example real quick. That thing that happened with the kneeling with the NFL players, what got very little attention was PK Subban, who is a African-American hockey player. He was with Montreal. Forgive me, folks. I think he's with Nashville now. I forget. He's Canadian. Oh, boy. I think it was Yahoo Sports. It was one of the sports writers of a decent publication that slammed him basically because he refused to take a knee or wouldn't take a knee. And I'm saying to myself, first of all, he's Canadian. Why are you bringing in? Why are you pushing on a Canadian for? Only because he's a black Canadian, and they were getting on him. So then what I see what happens here, Eck, is that you're stopping people from speaking from one side, or trying to, right? And then the people who you think are on your side, you are coercing them into, if they think differently, you're trying to coerce them and shaming them into thinking that you have to be on their side, just based upon race, religion, creed, or whatever like that. Mm-hmm. I'm going, now, that's crazy. Mm-hmm. That's insanity, right? I mean, think about it.
That's identity politics.
It's
101.
But it's taken it to the nth degree.
All right, identity politics 505.
Right. But you know what I'm saying? Like how far do you go? Do you turn around and you say, what? You know? It's nuts.
And what's crazy about it too is that the kneeling, you go as you were using the analogy of just layers and layers deep. You kind of have to trace back, like, when did this all start? And it's all because of Kaepernick, and what his original intent was to bring attention to Black Lives Matter, to police brutality.
Right.
And it got lost. Now it got turned into a national issue of, are you with the national anthem, or are you not with the national? Do you hate America, or do you not hate America? Right. And it just gets deeper and deeper and deeper. Mm-hmm. All for the sake of, and as I think you're insinuating too, or saying that the media just keeps playing it up, letting it get out of hand in a way.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it got co-opted into another agenda.
Yeah.
You know, what Kaepernick was trying to do was absolutely valid in terms of what he was trying to point out. Mm-hmm. I don't agree in how he did it, but I would have to acknowledge that what he did bring voice to an issue. So that's a double-edged sword there, isn't it? Mm-hmm. I don't like the idea of the flag or the anthem being disrespected like that, in my personal opinion. But he achieved what he wanted to do, which bring voice to it. It's a difficult topic. But you can't sit here and say that, well, you disrespected the flag, you did everything wrong. And then an African American sits here and says, well, you didn't live in my shoes and what's been going on here, and I'm trying to bring attention to a real problem. I'm not a Kaepernick fan. I don't like what he did. But his message is absolutely valid, and it should be looked at. There's no question about it. So instead of busting out a million statistics to go one way or the other, and instead of, propping up Ferguson to be more than what it was, the hands up, don't shoot thing, which was a false narrative when they found out. And if you don't believe me, it was Obama's DOJ looked into it. Go look it up yourself. All this stuff prevents people like me, you, anybody else around a table having a conversation about how to make things better. It stops it stops the idea of unifying. I mean, think about it for 1 second. You're a black American, and you're doing this to the American flag, right? And you're talking about police brutality. Who are you arguing? Who are you upsetting? Who are you upsetting? Think about it. Well, seriously, who are you upsetting? You're upsetting white America. You're upsetting all this and that. The people that you want to influence into your discussion to sit down and do it are the people you are aggravating. And people think, well, we have to aggravate people and force it down the agenda. Well, you tell me how many times when you were a kid and your mom wanted to force peas or food down your mouth, you didn't do it, right? I know that's a very simplistic way of looking at it. But we have to take serious issues and bring it about in a serious way. And that's where we have to look at, that's why Congress needs to be more like statesmen, stateswomen, as opposed to politicians. That's where the media has to be more balanced left and right. That's why we have to give opinion, and we have to have, guardians of the gate of some things. You just can't put everybody on there that are flamethrowers, which just incites violence, incites hatred, incites ideology. Where's the discussion? It's the same thing with the gun control. We talked about the gun control, right? I mean, I sat there and I said to you, look, I like guns, but man, that bump stock thing is stupid. I mean, come on, man. Police brutality, what's going on with the black, I mean, it's ridiculous.
There's
it's ridiculous
nuance to all this.
Of course there is. But it takes thinking. It takes 3, 4 levels deep above the surface, and people caught up in the 7-second soundbite. They're caught up in this. In a world in which we live in, where there's so much information at hand, the problem is that there's too much bad information at hand, and people don't have the skill set sometimes to really know how to parse through the crap. They don't know how to parse through the fake news. And whenever you lead by emotion, you've lost. You've lost. And it's hard because I'm older and I still find myself catching myself. Remember, I was talking to you about the whole Daily Burn thing when I'm going way back, talking about tragedy, and I held on back doing it because it would have been sort of incendiary, or maybe incendiary from the people thought of you, but it also brought no value.
Yeah.
So how am I helping? That's why I did the thing on why the media hasn't called it terrorism, and I went that way with it, and I gave it a value point. So that's that.
You had a very interesting point going back, jumping back a bit of the...
Apology for meandering all over the place.
No, it's perfectly fine. The slaloming effect.
Yeah.
I think it also comes back to the pendulum effect as well, too. And there was actually, when I listened to Jordan Peterson's podcast, he talked about kind of like a sidewinder snake. That as it's moving, as you can kind of think of like how... and this is oversimplifying it, but trying to solve problems, there's obviously one way you can go about it and another way to go about it. And so when the snake moves, the object is to try and stay in the middle of the snake, it's probably what has happened. Now the snake is moving obviously very quickly,
right?
Moving side to side so many times per second. And if you can just slow it down, you zoom out a bit, this is probably the same as years, centuries, millennia of how the political landscape moves as well too. So we're probably seeing, as you said, a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B, the Forrest Gump quote.
Sure.
And it just comes to show, as when you went back and you were talking about making mistakes and proper path to leadership, where you can have all these rules, and even if you do follow rules, or you try to the best of your ability, you can still screw up. The best analogy I can think of is jiu-jitsu, Brazilian jiu-jitsu. When you first start out, man, you're going to get tapped a lot.
Sure.
You're going to get owned a lot. You actually dabbled in martial arts as well, too.
Taekwondo for a couple of years, yeah, sure.
And when you first start out, there's a reason why you put on a white belt. You're not... it. And the path to mastery, or the path to not making a lot of mistakes... I mean, you still are, is to own up to all of those mistakes. When you tap it, and as you said, being very objective about it, instead of being the type of whiner where, like, let's say you get tapped out, oh, that guy had 50 pounds on me, maybe.
So go get stronger.
Yeah. Oh, this guy tapped me out because of this. This guy I lost because of this. As opposed to, hey, I didn't spend enough time on the mats. I didn't work on this technique a lot. That my opponent was just simply better.
Right.
So I think a great way to kind of tie all of, as far as making mistakes, to kind of tell Warren that it's okay to make mistakes. Here's some pathways, here's some practical applications, whether it be through martial arts, through
music.
Even in music, as I was about to tie into it, when you go into a jam session, you don't know who you're playing with. You don't know what style it is. And you're going to make mistakes in the middle of a piece, but you keep going with it, and you kind of learn to adapt to it as you keep moving along. The other thing was, it's interesting hearing a lot about U.S. politics and how it goes along, and I'm sure you've noticed whenever I would let the discussion go, have you say your piece, which is totally so much insight. I really thank you for giving a lot of it. And as you notice, as I even said, I try to play the observer standpoint. I think the reason, and Warren should probably listen up to this as well too, is because I watched my dad engage in a lot of Thai politics over the course of in the past 10, 20 years.
Sure.
Heard a little bit about the red shirt, yellow shirt thing, which is, you could do a lot of correlation between what was happening with the United States. And it's even more complicated and nuanced, where you would think like, oh, why don't I just choose this side? versus the other side, and it's like both sides have fucked each other so badly. Like one, oh, you think this side was good? Oh, well, that's because this side had done. It's complicated. You can read into it, and if you find you can choose a team, good on you, man. But the point of it was that years ago, I remember just being able to. We would go over to one of his friends in Washington D.C. He was my first exposure to when I was growing up to Super Mario Brothers 2. I remember he taught me how to play Punch Out. You can actually dodge. So, and then one day he goes, "No, we're not going to Washington D.C. This year." I go, "Why?" He goes, "He's a yellow shirt." My dad was red shirt, and the other guy was yellow shirt. Really, and the first thing, just 20 plus years, just gone. Just like that. And I remember my dad would be sitting there and like just really obsessing about the news and what was going on. And both sides calling, and yet another friend gone. Nope, not talking to that guy anymore.
Wow.
You say, wow.
Yeah.
This sounds
similar,
probably
sure.
very familiar to what people have gone through probably every year election cycle. Up here comes the Facebook purge.
Well, it's this year especially. Well, last year. How did you follow? Let me ask you this: how did you follow? Does he ever reflect upon those to you? Has he ever reflected upon just cutting those people out with any regret, or in hindsight, did he think of it differently after? Was it impulsive, or did he think it through, or years later, did he feel differently about it?
The best way I can put it, Bernie, is that this year he had his 70th birthday.
Congrats.
And we sat down, and he just goes, combination of Thai and what has been going on in the U.S. political climate, sits down, looks at me, and he goes, "You know what, Eck? I've been watching the news for 40, I wake up in the morning watching the news for 40 years now, or whatever it was." And he goes, "I'm tired." That's all he had to do. That's all and it was like he just summed everything up. It's tiring, Bernie.
In that moment right there is probably when he might have been the most open to conversation.
Yeah.
It's hard to fight for
Always
something.
fight. Always fight. Just always. Oh my goodness.
I want to say this really quickly. I mean, for the people that listen to this, just real fast. The point of everything I'm trying to bring out is to make people think and all that stuff. It saddens me. First of all, I think this country is great, and I think it's a lot better than when people want to say it is. I really do. But you have to get together and have conversation, and you have to put aside the stuff you're listening and hearing, and stop looking at all the images that are on TV. Man, negative images affects people without even knowing that it does, and try to be objective. And it's okay. It's like a layer of an onion, man. There's so many layers to an onion to get to the core. It takes a while. Educate yourself, be smart, then make a decision on what you want to do. But don't ever shut people down either way, it's not good.
It's kind of funny though, isn't it? In the sense of like it sounds like people like just rooting for their sports teams and just really being vehemently attached to them.
Ideology and emotion.
I want my team to win. I want the other team to win.
But they all shake hands at the end of the game. That's the thing.
Do you think it's also probably because there are some people who I just tossed this idea around where a lot of people don't engage in sports and politics is their sports.
Absolutely.
So as a Devils fan, I went through my heartbreak in the 93-94 season when losing to the Rangers in double overtime.
Great
shock.
Matteau.
Yes. Thank you for bringing that up. I got to bring up, what was it? It was a recent one, too, where we finally beat the Rangers it was single overtime. It wasn't double overtime.
It's fake news.
Oh, I got you. And then obviously Buffalo fans are probably the most hardened of all with what is it,
Super Bowls?
4 straight Super Bowls.
4 Super Bowls, yeah.
And Jets fans, I'm currently going through what you're going through. I have gone through for years
news.
in the past.
Well, what about last year? We'll take last year's Super Bowl when Atlanta just.
Yes.
I mean,
So you feel heartbreak in a double overtime loss, but you hopefully stick around with your team enough, and then you get your little bit of glory. So I think a lot of people got hardened by that of like, it happens, And do you think there's probably a generation who grew up with not having a sports team and not really ever having that bit of hardening of an upset, and all they knew was maybe 8 years of Democrats winning, and all of a sudden, and they've been told, as you said, almost pretty much pumped up by the media. Oh, what was the percentage chance that one could win versus the other? It was before, and then that upset happened, and I think a lot of like people who were probably followed sports were like, yeah, it happens. That type of thing happens, and then everyone else was just.
Well, I think the thing with the sports analogy is great. The only difference is that, the analogy between the two, I think we're talking about politics and you're talking about sports, is that it's emotion is a common thread there, right? The difference between sports and politics is that, win or lose with sports, it's how much emotional investment you put into it, but it doesn't really affect your way of life. People look at politics as affecting their way of life. So it gets a little bit more deeper in the emotional thing. That's why it gets burns, I think, hotter. And it's interesting. And you brought up a point. The people that are grown up in a generation, and look, there's a whole generation of people here who only know about war. And the funny thing is, they don't even know war. 2001, 9/11 happened. People don't remember. I think it was 91, 92 was the Gulf War, and then there was the Oklahoma City bombing, and then there was a World Trade WTC bombing in '93, I think, with the Sheikh, I think it was. People don't remember any of this stuff. They've grown up that we've been in war for 16 years, but they don't even recognize or even know what's going on. I mean, 4 Green Berets lost their lives just the other day in Nigeria. People don't even think about it. They're so used to it. What the hell is that all about? Think about that for a second. We're at war. We're doing these things, and people are so used to it. And
you brought up another thought as well too, and obviously there's difference. But the Vegas shooting and the reaction to it days later versus when 9/11 happened, and then 9/12. So in comparison, as you saw with after Vegas, it just seemed like there was a lot more discourse. It was a lot more people at each other's throats. And I can only speak from anecdotal experience. Sure. I can only go by what I saw as I was driving along the turnpike. I saw every other car had a U.S. flag on it, and it was, as opposed to now, it's just even in a highly blue state around New Jersey and New York, you see like everyone at each other's throats.
Well, I will tell you, you're absolutely. There's two things with this. One is that 9/11 was I guess people would call it the national tragedy, right? Though Vegas is a national tragedy and all that, but 9/11 hit every single culture, person, everything. And it was attack from a foreign country, right? It was basically war. That's the place people got to get back to. Get back to the semblance of what America is about. It's funny. It's like a family, right? You get into a family and you can say anything you want in the family, this and that, but an outsider comes in and says the same thing you said, oh, it's game on. Everybody's going to gang up on that person, right? I mean, that's what it is. I mean, America's a family. It's this big family. I will say this. I went to Hawaii, I think it was, 8-9 months later. Something along those lines. And I remember people in Hawaii, some people didn't really care or connect with it because it was so far away. Yeah. Not all. I'm just saying there was a couple of people that I ran into, when they found out where I was from in New York, New Jersey and all that. I was shocked to hear that. So, yeah, I mean, look, everything we're talking about today, and to get back to your son and hearing this, is that, look, everything you watch on TV, everything you read and hear and this and that, when you're younger, your knowledge base is smaller, right? You don't have as much life experience. And a lot of stuff you're going to be seeing is going to be surface level stuff. there is 3 or 4 levels deeper than everything you're going to see. And that's where you got to get to. That's where you find the commonality with people. And the only way to do that is to sit across from a table with people who understand that they're not infallible, that they will, and that's where the compromise begins. Where are we? What do we agree upon? That's how the conversations begin. The media is gonna do what it does for its ratings and making money. And I'm not saying all media is bad. It's not all bad. It's there for a reason. It's just really gone off the deep end. Congressmen, senators, they're politicians. They're not statesmen or stateswomen anymore. They're very few. There's too much groupthink going on. We have to start learning to be individuals and that. You want to make the world a better place. Start with yourself. And I'll tell you, my God, if you work on yourself, you're going to have more influence on people than you will in any other way you can do it. And that's what I would tell Warren. Take your time. Don't worry about making mistakes. They're going to happen. Mistakes are good. Failure is devastating. But even through failure, like I went through divorce and we've all gone through bad things, there's still opportunities to learn within that. And it's the perspective you take that's either going to make you learn or going to make you bitter or hardened. And you just have to decide what you want to do. Understand that there are no absolute truths. Be wary of people who con you with 7-word sentences and 7-second sound bites.
140 characters.
140 characters. Rise above it. Rise above it. And just by doing that, you'll be a better person. Read, get smart, look at opposing ideas, make your opinions on things, but be intelligent about it. You have a passion for something, learn about that passion, what you can do. Understand that there are limitations, but limitations is what makes us strong. There are no participation trophies. There just aren't. And those are the key things, man. Don't be careful of being influenced. Be careful, especially at a young age. Those are the things you got to be worried about. But having a father like you,
oh jeez,
and seriously, you and Jess are amazing people, and I'm not worried about them. I really wouldn't. I will say this to Warren, and this happens all the time, is that you will be disappointed by your parents at some point. It happens.
Oh, I'm going to disappoint him like on purpose. But I'm going to mess with that kid so much.
But don't.
I know.
Don't let it disappoint. Don't let it bother you too much. Because it's every parents are trying their absolute best, and when you get older, it's hard sometimes to see your parents for what they are. It really is. You're like, because you have this thought process of what it is, then you get older and you see for it what it really is. And then you have to look at the layers below it as to why it became what it did. And then you become even more grateful for who they were and helping you get through the things, knowing exactly how hard it was for them. So be open-minded, be open-minded.
Bernie, wrapping it up very eloquently. It's kind of like we were just jamming on the guitars, and I let you have that last solo, and I stopped playing rhythm, and you just go at the end. It's eloquently put, and very much appreciated. And I hope you enjoyed yourself.
Absolutely.
And I hope to have you on again sometime soon.
I'm here for you, man. I love it. This is great. I'm really proud of you. I think you guys are doing a great thing here. This is great.
Appreciate it, Bernie. Thank you so much.
Thank you.